Welcome along, my aspiring allies, and thank you for joining me on this most recent episode of the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. Today, I am joined by Erefa Coker, and Erefa is a talent acquisition and cross-cultural integration specialist. That's not been easy for me to say, I can tell you. And she provides offshore talent from Africa into places all over the world. And specifically, I have invited her along on this podcast today to speak all about biases, because as I'm sure you can imagine, in her line of work, she encounters these on a very regular basis. We're actually part of a mastermind group together, and it was through those conversations that I really began to understand a lot of the barriers that she faces when it comes to people's attitudes in sourcing talent from Africa as opposed to other nations in the world. So, this is what we have begun to unpack today. It's a fascinating conversation. It might be quite uncomfortable in places for you to listen to, and I implore you, please do lean in and sit with this. Examine your own internal biases. There are multiple points during our conversation where I do ask people to reflect, because I think it's really important that we sit with some of these feelings that we might be having around this topic and really explore where they might be coming from. There is also an additional conversation that I had with Erefa after the fact, where we explored the topic specifically of anti-Black racism. It's not a question that I asked her during our podcast recording because I hadn't contracted for it up front, which on reflection I should have done, because to be honest, I knew it was going to be something I wanted to ask. So that is some work for me to do in sitting with why I didn't do that up front. But it's in there now. I did have that conversation with Erefa, and she kindly did agree that having her thoughts included in the podcast was important. So that is something that I've also included in the chat. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode today. And you know the drill. Sit back, relax, and get comfortable in whichever way works best for you. And let's explore some of our unconscious or perhaps not unconscious biases on the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. Are you ready to start? Whenever.
Whenever.
Okay.
I was born ready.
Cool. Born ready. That's where we're going to start this then.
Okay.
So I think for me, Erefa, where I'm coming from is we obviously know each other through our bigger, brighter, bolder group, and I found it really intriguing, like, to hear about all of the business that you do and the way in which you do it and how it's different to the offering that we see many other people doing. And I know that most of our listeners and viewers are going to be really used to me kind of cracking a few jokes or having some mundane conversation leading into this. But actually, I think for you and I, what I think is going to be the most impactful for people is if I allow you to just introduce yourself and talk about the work that you do, because then that is going to be like a real insight then is to opening up the conversation as to why we're here. So I would just like to let everybody know that I have already paid massive compliments to Erefa for the gorgeous colour that she's wearing. So for the people that are watching on YouTube, you can see this amazing. Is it because it looks kind of red orange to me? Is that accurate?
Burnt, like burnt orange?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So this kind of short cap sleeve top with, are they sequins or
Yeah,
like gems?
sequences.
Yeah, sequins around the neckline, and it's really beautiful. So Erefa looks amazing today. So we're all like really grateful that she showed up looking like a queen, and I look
Amazing.
I
Amazing.
look like I don't know, I'm off
Amazing.
to some sort of goth I don't know, moody sit-in. So I should have brought my clothing game today, but I haven't, and it's good that you have. So Erefa, please welcome to the Speaking of Inclusion podcast. And would you like to just give a little bit of insight as to who you are and what you do?
Right. So I'm a talent acquisition specialist. I founded a company called Imo. Imo. A lot of people call it IMO, but it is Imo. Imo. It's Yoruba language, which is a Nigerian language in Nigeria. Nigeria is a multicultural, multilingual. I think we have about 250 ethnic groups in the country. And Imo means knowledge. Imo, knowledge, right? And it was intentional about picking that name because what I do is a bit of knowledge. It's a knowledge transfer between the West meets Africa. So what I do is talent offshoring, offshore talent from Africa. They work remotely out of Africa. We Imo being the middle marketplace where talent meets potential employer or future employer. So what we do is we we have a pool of talent that we've taken through our assessment, we've vetted, so that talent with experience from 2 to 15 years work experience in business, in technology, that are able to support businesses from the get-go. And the business came about. My background is human resource. I've been in human resource for about 20 years. Excuse me. I'm a chartered fellow of the CIPD, but sorry, someone's scrum my voice. And I found a niche in the market, obviously post-COVID. A lot of people were working remotely. And when people think, oh, I'm offshoring, when they think of talent, they think of the Philippines, they think of India, or they think of Eastern Europe. I never really heard, oh, Africa, and this is a continent bursting with young people. In Nigeria, for example, where I'm from, the median age is 17 and a half years old. So 60% of the population is under the age of 50. And the average Nigerian as a BS, he has a, it's a university graduate. They've been to university, and we like to accumulate degrees anyway. So you find in a home you can find yes, we do. So he's not professional certification, his masters is and again it all boils down to the quest for a better life. So we've had bad leadership that sometimes has led the country in the past. We've had bad leadership in the past that has stunted the growth of the organization of the country. And the government was before some certain organization, biggest employer of labor, or everyone is trying to work in the oil and gas sector. As you know, Nigeria is an oil-rich country. And this has also led to, so as I said, a lot of people graduate every year, thousands of university graduates, thousands of people on the job market. So there's a job, there's what's it called now? There's 3.3% unemployment within the country. So, and I thought of this and seeing young people, whether young, whether middle class, middle age, working internationally from different parts of the world, apart from Africa, I thought this is where we could, build something intentional, a bit of profit and social impact. So impact in terms of creating employment for this young, middle age, whatever sort of age of people in Nigeria, where they can learn. And that's where the knowledge comes from, where they can sit down in their living room in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and work with businesses like yourself, even from small to medium-sized organizations, or build technology products. We have a team at the moment working on building an app for a business in London, and it's such a fantastic product. And what are you getting from that? Even if they're working, they might not be able to get that sort of experience just working for a small business in Nigeria. So for me, and then this business or this tech startup or this one person coaching organization working with them is also is learning from these people, learning a different culture, different ways of working. For example, I get some of my clients say, oh my God, they're so respectful. Nigeria is a culture of respect. So they go, sir, sir. I'm like, don't call me sir, call me, so they learn. And, it's always interesting when I have a chat, do a pulse check with clients and like, oh, it's so delightful, so respectful. Always, it's just always good to get that feedback because, again, people don't know what they're going to get. They get the pitch, they get the sales pitch, they love it. They see the CVs, the interview, they're happy with the candidate, but it's still venturing into the unknown.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really a great way of setting the scene. Because obviously what we're going to explore today then is actually you have connected the dots because like you've said, your background is in talent and HR and people, right? So you understand that inside and out. And you kind of skirted over it a little bit, but you are like pretty instrumental in the HR scene as well in Nigeria, aren't you? Like you're pretty well known.
Yes. I
Yeah.
also
Okay.
run,
You're a big deal.
kind of. I run one of the biggest HR conferences in Nigeria, which is 10 years. We did our 10-year anniversary this year. So quite well known. I'm very, from the start of my career in HR, I started as a recruitment consultant. For me, it was knowledge, very knowledge driven. I'm a lifelong learner, and I think that everybody should learn. I'm Pre-COVID, we used to fly speakers in because, again, third world country, a lot of people can't get access to some of the speakers. So we thought, why don't you bring this international speakers, people who have, if you then say you're talking about employee engagements, most people are working for smaller organizations. They haven't actually implemented the employee engagement process. So we're bringing speakers who have implemented. Then they can, they do the 2 days of conference and they take it back to their office and they're trying to say, oh, talk to the site and say, oh, let's do this, the tools that we can use, breaking down to their level. So for me, it's how do we make HR better? How do we make the HR is the core of the organization, right? So if you're HR personnel or people know what they're doing, then everyone in the organization is happy. If I
Yeah.
know mindfulness, if I know how to deal with people's mental health, if I know how to inclusion, if I'm stuff, things like this, So for me, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
it sounds to me like you're pretty switched on in terms of reading the room when it comes to organizations and people, and then like horizon scanning, and you saw that niche. So you knew that, you know, when COVID arrived and more people are moving to remote working, you saw that gap was actually there is a real untapped population of talent that for some reason nobody's accessing. And there's everything that you described there. So you've got a really kind of young population, knowledge hungry, really driven with this desire for change because of the lived experiences of the people in the region. And you're like, hang on a minute, ding ding ding. I can connect this talent remotely because now the world is accessible to organizations all over the world. And like I love the way you positioned it there as well, kind of that opportunity for cross-cultural learning as well. So it's really globalizing the world of work for people to access the talent that they need for the skills that they, and I love when you said like all different kinds of talent as well. So you've got all sorts of people doing all sorts of thing depending on the nature of their skills. So what are some of those problems then that you solve?
so fast access to recruitment, so you don't have to go through a lengthy recruitment process. On our search, if you go on our website, is AI augmented search, so you can just quickly put in, you can copy your old job description into it, and it'll bring at least the first 20 most appropriate skills that you're looking for, and from there you're able to put 5 of them into a pocket, schedule an interview, and speak to them. Like literally, you can complete a recruitment process, speedy recruitment process in 24 hours. You can schedule, meet with your people, meet with the candidate you shortlisted, do your interview, and so give you access to speedy recruitment, quality talent, experience, whatever level of experience that you want. It's very cost effective. Again, we're the third word. So the pound or your dollar has a superior strength to the naira. So what you'll be paying is significantly, you're almost about between 60 to 70% of your cost of hiring locally in your country, whether you're in Europe, in the UK, or in the US, not America. And
And
also, yeah, you're
yeah,
gonna
go on, no, you can finish. Yeah, go on.
and also the support that we give to you, email as a marketplace, the support that we give to you throughout the journey. So we're end to end, and we don't freelance the talent. So we manage, so we work with a local company, HR company in Nigeria, who manages this talent for you. So at any point in time, we're able to just provide that support. Because again, some people might think, oh God, I like the talent. Well, am I gonna pay them? Am I gonna do this? There's so many questions
Yeah.
that pop up. So we solve all you do is show up, and your talent shows up every day, and we take care of everything.
So if I wanted to kind of really simplify that, and please correct me if I'm misinterpreting this. So it's almost as if people imagine the way that a recruitment agency would work, and if they say they're going along because, oh, actually we need some temps. It's, if I think back to the old days
The
of
olden days
of,
here.
of my of mine, right? I need some temps. Um, and actually they can come to you as a fully outsourced
Absolutely.
solution to say we need this kind of work, this kind of, so the same way they would in any other recruitment process, but your system takes it all end to end, finds them talent. Are you only based out of Nigeria, or is it more broadly in Africa?
We have some talent out of Rwanda and Ghana, some in Ghana, some in Kenya. But at the moment, we're solving the problem country by country. So
Yeah.
obviously, as we get bigger, better, if we can at least provide, I and I also see for the foreseeable, 60 to 70% of our talent will come out of Nigeria. As I said, we are also trying to solve our unemployment issue. So let's tackle that. And then we move to, as the platform gets bigger, we build a platform like scalable so we can have 1
Yeah.
million talent on it. It doesn't really matter, but it's making sure that we have evidence to show. We have clients who are working, we have people who have reviews and things like that. One step at a time.
Okay. Awesome. Because I just think it's really great for our listeners and viewers to just to set the scene about what is it you do. Because then when we start talking about the obstacles and the reason why we're talking about you and your business on this podcast, I just think it's really important that we set the scene first so that everybody understands like how do you work and why do you work that way. So essentially it's solving recruitment problems by offshoring talent, and you take care of all of it, so people don't have to worry about, you know, local labor laws, etc., in
So,
whichever country it is you're supplying people from. You've got that down, so fully outsourced.
yes.
Awesome. Okay. So then what are some of the kind of obstacles then that you come up with? Because this is where we're going to start talking about like why are we talking about this on an inclusion podcast?
Right.
What are some of the obstacles you come up in terms of having conversations with organizations? And I'll say in the West, because that's how you positioned
Yeah,
it to begin with,
absolutely.
right? So yeah, talk me through that then.
I'll say trust. Trust is the first. So the trust. And how do we build the trust? We're saying to you, we are a UK-based organization. So you have a B2B contract. It's protected by English law. So, this is what we offer. We have non-compliance. For me, it's getting into the conversation, booking that meeting, having that 15 minutes conversation to say, this is how we're able to support you through the journey, and getting the prospective client to trust, to understand the process and trust the process. Once we can cross that first bit, do I then the talent? So I trust you. Oh, you're great. You're a UK-based company. You're down the road. I can see if I want to see you. But what about the talent? How do we trust them? And we've also built a process. Every talent on our platform has been assessed. We've done checks. We know who they are. They have done what they say they do, because we've done all sort of assessment on them. So we also show you that bit, because again, it's all good. Erefa is nice. Oh, she's very nice. She's very professional. She understands what she do, but can she deliver on what she's promised? Can the talent that you're bringing in, so I can do a 24-hour turnaround service for you, but the person you place with me, are they able to do the things that they've said they will do in interview? Some people are pros at passing interviews, right? Because if you've done one, you've done. If you don't want too many, you almost know how to do an interview. So can this talent deliver? So trust is all, it's like a 360 thing going around in, like, do we trust the company? Do we trust the talent? And then, so when you ask of the trust, some people also are quite keen. And then we also have yeah, I'm on the inclusion podcast. So I'll say we have unconscious bias, right? Where
Yeah.
people are thinking, "Ah, I'm not sure, I'm not really sure." Now it's not, when I say, obviously your listeners know what unconscious bias is. It's not something that you know until it's put to your face, right? So it's like, oh, I would like to work with a VA. Oh yeah, I can supply you a VA from Africa. They work remotely offshore. From where? From Africa. I'm not really sure, right?
Yeah. But if you'd have said Manchester,
If I said, well, if I even said India, because a lot of people have staff from India or the Philippines, because they have a few friends, someone as an associate who's hired from there, so it's a comfortable place for
yeah,
them. But
for
even
the
if I say
familiarity.
Scotland, it's familiar. So, and then those sort of biases come out, because I've had an American client ask me, do they speak English in Nigeria? I'm like, oh yes, English is a national language. Again, because, so that's when I say unconscious bias. Because if I say I was bringing you something from the Philippines, you're not going to ask me if they speak English. But I say I'm bringing you somebody from even South Africa, you're not going to ask me if they speak English. But because I've just said Nigeria, Africa, it's almost like it's a closed, so
Mm,
close that you then begin to, I'm not sure. Let me have a think and I'll come back to you, or send me some, just I know when someone is fobbing me off. So I then
yeah,
say, you know what, why don't you have a chat with those people, do an interview, but again, I don't press, because again, I want it to be a comfortable
yeah,
relationship with both employees, because I don't want to
yeah,
force you to do it, or
yeah,
get into a meeting. So I think one of the is trust and unconscious bias is also understanding cultural differences, and we help along with that. But I think the important thing is the trust and the unconscious bias,
mm,
because those are the bottleneck. That's what is not going to make you progress to even chatting, even seeing them,
yeah,
even selecting
yeah.
candidates or anything.
Yeah. And this is the bit, obviously, unsurprisingly, that I find really curious. Um, and I know just in even in some of the pre-conversations that we've had ahead of this, that we probably have slightly different views on this as well. But I mean, I'm with you completely in the unconscious bias piece. And my personal view around unconscious bias is the language of that is something that I find really tricky, right? Because I'm not a fan of the term unconscious bias. I'm like, it's just bias. I think that when we call it unconscious bias, we're just making it more comfortable for us to be like, oh, that's my unconscious bias. I don't know it's happening. I mean,
Yeah,
we know it takes place unconsciously,
yes.
but it influences our behaviors and it changes the way that we respond. And like you say, you know when you're being fobbed off. You see that person's unconscious bias coming straight out of their mouth. So for me, it's kind of like it is, or it could very well be unconscious. Um, but I find it interesting when we think about bias in that some are or into the implicit bias, explicit bias. We know that's the stuff where people are going to say like mean shit to our face, right? So okay, those people, well, none of us want to work with them, that's fine. But when we think about implicit bias, I always think of it in terms about is somebody unwilling or unable. And I know the unconscious bias piece comes under the unable, right? So people, and I think that's when you were saying about trust, right? Like there's going to be that thing in them as like, oh, can I trust this? And exactly as you've just said, you've got all of the stages in place to demonstrate I'm really reputable. We've been doing this a long time. You can meet your candidates. You can have conversations with the talent that I put. I can overcome those hurdles of trust for you. We know what we're doing. But then there's the other side, isn't there, of like people are a bit unwilling, like so,
Absolutely.
which means they probably maybe still don't fully recognize that they're fobbing you off. But it will be that thing within them that's just like, oh yeah, like you said, oh, I feel comfortable with India, but I don't feel comfortable with Africa.
Absolutely.
And it's like, do you want to sit with that for a minute?
And also, I've had a client prospect who was going to hire that interviewed at penciled down working with someone, and she came back to me and said, "I'm not sure if I could share my." The person was supposed to help them manage LinkedIn and share my LinkedIn details. I'm like, I do that. My LinkedIn details are shared with them. They work on it. It's like, I'm not sure I'm able to. Maybe they've gone to speak to someone. They said, "Oh, the Nigerian Prince email." Things like that. All sort of things come up.
Yeah,
Because she was good. She's done an interview. She's done just let us know when the start date. And she came back with that. And again, I'm not gonna force you. So I'm just gonna like I just give you what I've done, what other people have done. We've never had any issues with this. So
yeah.
where if you insist that you're not comfortable, then you're not comfortable. Again, you
Mm.
have to be comfortable. But again, I'm just trying to say, just to I kind of agree with what you're saying that sometimes it's not able to or willing to just
Yeah.
go
And I
through.
just as a moment of reflection, because obviously you are the absolute professional and there's no way that you're going to do anything that's going to make your clients feel uncomfortable. And I get that. So I totally understand how you're like, look, if people don't want to, they don't want to. They're not my clients, right? So for the purposes of people listening and watching this, I actually want people to sit with that. Like if you imagine you were looking for some talent and you came to Erefa and you were having this conversation, I want people to be really honest. You don't have like obviously you don't have to tell us because we're not listening. But if they could be honest with themselves about how they would feel if you were going to look for some remote talent and you were presented options, would you have that reservation about, oh, would I share my LinkedIn login details with somebody from Nigeria? I just want people to sit with that because that's a really great example that you just gave. Sit with that for a minute and see how you feel about it. Because if you're not sure, even though you've just heard Erica say, I've got my checks and balances in place, all of these people are vetted, we know exactly who we're working with, you will have met them, like I'm a reputable company. I want people to just sit with that for a minute because I find that really curious. And yeah, and actually, and the example that you gave there as well, like, we've all heard stories, haven't we, about getting phone calls and emails from, you've got a relative, yeah, your relative, the Prince of Nigeria, has passed away and left you a massive sum of money. Like, we all know these kind of the stereotypical tropes that are going to get trotted out that do um erode trust, right? So I want people to kind of sit with that for a minute and just explore their own feelings in hearing this, because that for me is where a lot of the growth comes from, in that we have to be comfortable to just go, oh yeah, I do feel differently if it was giving my login details to someone in Nigeria versus someone in the Philippines versus someone in Manchester. Like let's sit with that and just call ourselves out a little bit. So that was that moment. Yeah. So and like I say, I know Erefa, the absolute professional, she's not going to make people feel uncomfortable. I will. I'm going to do that for us because I think that that is important. And to circle back as well to something you said around language. So really interesting. So questions you get asked around, you know,
They speak
spoken
English.
languages, right?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
it is it is it only English speaking clients that you work with?
Yes, because the national language in Nigeria is English, right? As we're colonized by your
Yeah.
forebears.
Yeah.
They went around quite, so we speak English. And also because Nigeria is multilingual. So English is a natural language that is spoken everywhere. Kids are taught from English language from the I remember when I was in primary school, if you are caught speaking your language, you could stop speaking in vernacular. That's what they used to say. So we love big words in Nigeria. We don't use like you have to use it has to be it has to really mean something. So you have to use instead of say, stop speaking in your language, stop speaking in vernacular, stop speaking. We love big words. So you can imagine a child, a 5-year-old, saying stop speaking in vernacular, stuff like that. But we're very big on English. We're right. I'll tell you, when you're moving to the UK to do your masters, even though you've taught a first degree, second, whatever, you've been taught English all your life, you still have to take the English language test, which 80% of Nigerians
Okay.
pass it
Because
because
it's your national language.
and it's our national language,
Okay.
but we still have to take English to come to the UK to show that you can speak English, even though degrees are taught in English language. Everything you have is taught in English language, but we
Mm.
pass it anyway because this is what we've known.
Because it's your language.
Yeah, it's our national language.
So that again, so that is really interesting to me because if I think and I'm you very correctly called out there through colonization, okay, so people from Europe, Britain, have traveled, they have colonized in Nigeria, therefore a lot of the I guess religious systems and spoken languages and everything very much the same as a majority of people in the UK. And I would say then we could also apply that same logic perhaps to the United States, if
Yeah,
you think about it, right? Because as a colonizing nation, Britain also did some
criminalize them
excellent
in the States
colonizing
as
work
well.
over there.
Yeah.
And I say excellent as that was sarcasm. I want to really make that clear. I'm not for it. That was sarcasm. So the same principles applied, right? So the religious systems, belief systems, language went over. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that English speaking Americans have to sit language exams, do they?
Yeah. There's only people from Africa that
Yeah.
have to write this English language test. I had to write the English language test, and it's a standing joke like I studied English language. My
You're
first
like,
degree was in English language.
collect master's degrees for heaven's sake.
Even I have a BA, I have a Bachelor of Arts in English, and I had to write
Yeah.
an English language
Yeah.
test just to
So even having a BA in English, that wasn't enough.
yeah, because it wasn't a degree taught. I don't know. It's just one of
Excellent.
those crazy things that, you know, again, all um systems that have been obviously this some of these things need to be evaluated now, but it's just easy to go along with what is being said, for anybody
Yeah.
who wants to relocate to the UK. And I do understand that maybe some people don't speak English, but the university has already accepted you to come and do your master's degree, but hey, we still want you to go do an English language test as part of your
You're good enough to study at a postgraduate level in a university of the UK, but you have to take a test
yeah, so you have to take the test.
outside of the university's
Wait, outside
processes.
because it's not a prerequisite for the university. The university has already seen your transcript.
Yeah, the university are
But
perfectly happy.
they know you are taught in English. They've seen your transcript is written in English. They've seen your degree, so they've given you an admission. But the Home Office has to see that
Mm,
you can pass a written, spoken, and listening test in English.
mm,
Hmm.
I'm just going to go again because I think we all know what I'm thinking. But isn't that curious that yeah, people from African nations, English speaking African nations would have to do that, whereas people, I'm going to go out, so you know, westernized English speaking nations don't have to. There's a theme there, isn't there? So I'm not going to bang that drum too much. So then, and it's interesting as well, because then you brought about the qualifications, right? Didn't you? So there's obviously, is there a concern from your clients around qualification alignment about the kind of the quality of qualifications?
But you also know now one thing the the British work system is good for is that they're not big on certification or qualifications, right? They're supposed to but but because we are Nigerians, to be able to work, you have to have a first degree or stuff like that. So we are big, and I don't want to go into the future of talent acquisition, which is more skills based on AI than qualification based or anything. But I don't think that when I found some clients, like if I say, oh, you want a developer, they don't really care if he's been to university to study computer engineering. If they're keen, if they're going to hire a developer from India, yes, they say you don't know anyway, but we just, again, this is not part of my own Nigerian bias, which everyone on our system must have a university degree. Again, is one of the things that we do in HR in Nigeria, where is not, and I know the future of recruitment, the future of talent in organization, talent acquisition is not qualification, is now
Hmm.
going to be more skill based now in the age of AI as we're going again, but we're not talking about that today.
Yep.
It's but one of the things that with the British system is that the clients in the UK are not really phased. So
Okay,
if you
great.
have qualifications around what they want, they're happy. So you have an AWS qualification. They don't really care what your first degree in is in. Your skills is more what they're after. And I know that that's obviously there's some things if you want an accountant, you want to make sure that they have a ACA or ACCA as it's called,
Yeah.
things like that. But they don't really say we are the ones assuring them that they've got this, but they don't come ask you, oh, have they been to university? Do they have this? They're more into the skills and the experience as well.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. Because that was something I was also curious around then as to whether there was any additional hurdles in that regard. So and that's interesting. And then so you yourself actually hold your talent to a kind of a higher qualification standard currently, notwithstanding the fact that you accept that actually the future of talent is shifting. And I think we and I would imagine, any of the listeners certainly that working in HR and leadership spaces will see that too, in that there is an absolute trend, isn't there, away from pieces of paper towards applied competence.
So
Yeah, awesome, cool. Um, what other kind of biases then do you sometimes see coming up? Um,
so we've said the trust, we've said the um okay, I'll give you an example. And I'll have too many examples. A client, great guy in America. I went to a show in America. I did an exhibition in LA. We met, we chatted, it's real nice. And then when he was doing, he was sold. Americans are very into outsourcing, offshoring. They don't have they are not risk averse like the British people, right? So they are not keen. But and this everything went well, interview, and after the third interview, because I sat in that interview, it's like, oh, I'm surprised they speak English so well. Okay. You didn't know. That's why I said some of these things are unconscious. This is a guy
mm,
that from the get-go, he was one that touched base with me when I got back to the UK from America, say, hey, when can you send me some CVs? I'm really keen on getting started. But when he said it, obviously I just smiled. I'm like, yes, I did say to you that they speak English. Some
yeah.
people can't even speak their language because again, in the homes, and those are again, I'm just digressing a bit. Some of the things we're talking about in Nigeria is that in the homes you have to speak your language so that your children can be multilingual. I find a lot of kids in Nigeria, some of the Gen Zs, they can't speak their language, their Nigerian language, wherever they've come from. They only speak English, so they don't know anything. But
So kind of like the language of their cultural heritage
yeah,
essentially
their culture is almost
is
it's
just
almost gone. And also with all the social media where everyone's just so it's almost like we're losing our cultural heritage to it's just one, it's like English, everyone just speaks English. And then in the homes, parents are speaking also because we intermarry. So tribes marry another tribe. So mom speaks another, like for example, my dad's a different tribe, my mom is a different tribe. But my mom makes sure that we spoke our language so I can speak my thank God for that. Sick, a Nigerian language. Otherwise, we'll have spoken English. But with my dad, and when we converse, we spoke English throughout growing up to ourselves too. But my mom will speak to you in a language, and then you could either respond in English or in our language,
Yeah.
whichever. And my daughter, my husband was born here and has lived here. My daughter's 12. She understands because I speak to her in the same language, but she's now, and then before she wasn't keen on speaking, but now she's not
Yeah.
saying, no, I like to speak the language. I like to, so she understands everything I say, but she just can't speak it. And then we're again trying to get her to speak. And then I've got a little one who's 8. And I remember once we're in the city center, and I said something to my daughter in Yoruba. And it's like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I don't understand, you know. So again, it's the same thing happening in Nigeria. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So
But isn't that fascinating though, in the sense of, and again, this is a huge assumption on my part, so please correct me if I am wrong, but I can imagine it's just easy because, like you say, with TikTok and the global connection and the way in which everyone is kind of globally linked, a lot of, a huge part of that is things taking place in English, right? So, um, and again, because of colonization, it is a universally well, I was going to say like ticketed, like it's the gateway language, and you can probably get by anywhere if you can know a
yeah,
bit of
that's
English.
it. Because I used to go to India a lot for recruitment. We used to when I was in Nigeria, serious, but the average Indian can speak English, some passable form of English. So it's because it's just as I said, it's a global language. That's
Yeah,
otherwise I'll have to learn how to speak Spanish. I have to learn how to just to travel and communicate. So passable English is in some
yeah,
places. Yeah.
yeah. So it does stand to reason that then, and especially in nations where English is like the nation's language,
Yeah.
it stands to reason then that they're doing that. But isn't that kind of, I find that quite sad that it's at the expense
The
of a
local
culture.
language.
And I can imagine there might be listeners maybe in Wales who probably feel similarly in the sense that a lot of Welsh people will probably speak English on a day-to-day basis because it's a transactional language. But and maybe they're feeling a certain way about the younger generations of Welsh people who maybe are or aren't embracing that
Yeah.
language. So I can imagine there's some kind of synergy and and other and any other languages as well that is the same of. But um yeah, rewinding back to your point though, so kind of coming right back to your client who had
Yeah.
that statement, and that actually that statement of like, oh, you speak English so well,
You
like,
know,
but that's
it's
the
just
same, isn't it? Regardless of whether you're hiring somebody offshore like you provide, or whether you're bringing someone into your business in person, like having that we'll call it the unconscious bias, we'll call it this underlying belief that just because someone looks a certain way or comes from a certain place, there's this expectation that they will be less than. Um, and that's an interesting one, isn't it?
I've had people ask me, "Oh, did you do all your studies in England?" I'm like, "No." Until my master's degree, everything I learned how to speak English in Nigeria. So and I consciously, from consciously, I try not to speak with a British accent or any consciously because I want to retain my identity. I don't want to lose any sense of mine. And then my son makes joke, "Mommy, why are you sounding like that?" I'm like, "That's how I sound." You are English, you're the British boy. I'm Nigerian. I'm very into my identity.
Mm.
So I'm Nigerian first before anything, you know.
Yeah, and why would you not be proud?
I am proud.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I guess then that's another place then when you talk about the like the cross-cultural learning, because it is about how are we bringing people into our organizations and not just asking them to assimilate to the cultures that we have. It's actually about how are we learning from one another's cultures so that actually, again, whether you're bringing someone into your organization in person or hiring them remotely, or going completely with the offshore approach of someone else is placing them in your business, um, where they get to still show up exactly as they are. So, being a proud Nigerian, but I'm going to come and work in your remotely in your office based in, I don't want to say Manchester. I've got a thing about
I
Manchester.
know. Do you have a thing for
Where,
Manchester? I
where
was
else
going to
should we
ask
go?
you.
Taunton. Taunton, we're going to go there. But it's just, isn't it? It's about looking for those opportunities to really learn something new about another human from a different place.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I was reading this on social media. I don't know the person, but it's come from Nigeria to study in England. And, as I said, Nigeria is a culture of respect. Your boss, you call your boss by Mr., your lecturers, Mr., Prof, Doctor, it's not. And this guy is like, his lecturer said, call me, I'll say maybe he said, call me Tom. I was like, I can't call you Tom. And every time, because again, we courtesy. So in Nigeria, it's either you from different tribes again. It's either you. So the men prostrate, they go flat on to greet their elders, and then the ladies kneel, or at least you sort of courtesy, go a bit down. So it says when his lecturer is like, call me Tom, it's like said what is subconsciously, each time he sees it, his head is still going because he's not able to. So does that
Yeah.
lead to, and he's like, he said the first time the guy told him, call me, he's like, ow, am I going to call you Tom? Because, and I've seen that also happen with some of my clients where, oh, so just call me Sarah. And the guy's like, I can't call you Sarah. Like, oh, you're almost as old as my mom. I can't call you Sarah.
Yeah.
And I also digress to my kids, right? My daughter, when she goes to her friend's house, she calls them Mr. They're friends' parents, Mr. Tom, their last name, or Mrs. Like, just coming by. I said, no, I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
I can't because again, I bring a bit of my culture to I grew up with
Yeah.
respect. So where it's okay. So if my daughter saw you, she will call you, oh, Miss Allen. She would never call you by your first name.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
not
And
the
isn't
same.
that interesting? Because I can totally understand, like, that would feel so weird to me.
I know.
And at the same time, that's okay. Like, I can get over that as well, because one of us is going to feel weird, right? So it might as well be me.
Well, eventually they get used to it. It's like, just call me. It's like, it's okay if I just call you. And then the
Yeah.
employer's like, just call me Sarah. I'm happy with it. And I'll tell you a story. My client, she likes to, a chin wag in the morning. How did your weekend go? And this guy had to so we do cross cultural training for them, So after my, like, he's so quiet, he doesn't say anything. He's a tech guy, but it's just two of them then working, and she just wants to say, "Oh, this is what I do," rather, and then the boy's just looking, okay. So what did you do? Nothing. I was just at home. So I said, it's you're working remotely, you have to. She wants to chat with you. It's just that's what English people do. You don't really want to chat to your neighbor in the morning, but say, that's the weather, she just wants to,
We're known for conversations about
yeah,
the
she just
football.
wants to
Yeah.
break. She doesn't want to get straight at work. He just wants to work and like, I just want to do my work and goes like, says, asking me what I do. As, oh, I took my mom. What did you guys get up to? Like, why do I have to tell her that? Just things like that.
Yeah.
And
But
now they love each other. And
yeah.
I told the client the other day, I said, oh, I was asking him, how's your girlfriend? Obviously, it's a joke, like, and she laughed because they love working with together. He's done 1 year and is now year two, working on the second year with the same person. And I remember it's like, oh gosh, he doesn't talk, he's so quiet, things like that. Because he's grown up in a culture of respect where my boss and I are not supposed to be chatting about
Yeah.
how my weekend went. I'm not going to tell my boss I played football with my friends. I'm not going to do certain things because that's not how we roll where
Hmm.
I am from, you know. And one of the things that I also find interesting about what I do is that we're building confidence of these people. So when they go into, even if they then stop working for this companies remotely, they've seen a different, that's why I say again, I said knowledge, right? They've seen a different way of working. And when they go for an interview, and they get that vibe from some bosses in Nigeria are authoritative, and they get like, I don't really have to work for you because I now know what I'm worth. I know what I can
Yeah.
do. I know what is out there in the world. So it's a win-win situation for both parties.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because it's creating scenarios, isn't it? Where, yeah, like you say, people can figure out how they want to work and
Absolutely.
what does align with. And actually, I guess, so for some people who might appreciate a bit more hierarchy, a bit more structure, like more in structure, grand, like that's available. And there are other ways of working if they want to. And I love that point, the example you gave, Seth. Thank you for sharing that as well, because that's the thing, isn't it? With any two people that you're bringing together, you have to figure it out. And not everybody's good at small talk. Like, there are even I was thinking about there's cultural reasons why people aren't used to small talk. There are reasons around kind of like neurodiversity where people just don't understand small talk and it makes no sense. So it's kind of like actually the expectations that we hold of other people are that they will behave the way that we will behave. And it's about challenging that within ourselves to rather than think, God, this person's miserable, they won't chat to me. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, am I making them feel uncomfortable by chatting them? And how can we, make it so it's comfortable for both of us? Yeah, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Erefa, is there anything else that you came to say that you haven't had an opportunity to say that you think would be useful for people kind of listening and watching along to take away with them?
So for me, I'll say it's broaden your horizon, right? It's not the way you know things or what you're used to. Sometimes it's not always the best, or it's good, but you could try something. It's like going to a different country and not trying their cuisine, right? You have to eat something. You have to, even if you're eating it the wrong way. Because when I used to, for the HRS, I used to bring a lot of people from the UK, and then they see so the things we call swallow. So you eat it with the soup, and they just put everything together on their plate. I'm like, you're gonna run your tummy, so people are always keen to try. So the way you're keen when you go to different countries, try out things there, the same way the world is a global village now, so we should be able to say, oh, I've got two people working for me out of Lake Nigeria, I've got two people working for me out of Ghana, out of India. It's a global village, and the more you uh embrace this, you are contributing to an economy, you're contributing to growth, you're contributing to somebody not I remember one of my clients asked me, what's the Nigerian dream for a young person in Nigeria? I said the I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. I said the Nigerian dream is to leave Nigeria. She's like, what? I said, so there's a word they call it jackpot, it means run away. I said, for the average young person, the Nigerian dream is for them to leave again because they've been in this country where some of them have gone to, they've done everything that they've been asked to do. They've come out of work, university, they can't find work.
Mm,
Some of them, their parents have decided, have put all their money. They could be petty
yeah,
traders trading on the roadside and thinking, oh, let me send my first child to school. So when he graduates, he will support in sending. And then they find out that the child graduates, they're still supporting him, trying to get a job, year one,
mm,
year two, so it's almost like, what's going on? So for them, could I find a greener pasture somewhere else? Oh, I
yeah,
know somebody who's gone to America. I know somebody who's gone. So we call it jackpot, leave Nigeria. But if
yeah.
you
What I'm hearing there is ambition, right?
yes,
Yeah.
there's one thing that Nigerians are known for. We call it Nigeriano they carry last. See?
Nigerno de carry last.
Yes, carry last. That means whatever, wherever we are, we're going to excel, right? So
Okay.
it's the resilient spirit of Nigeria because our government has taught us to be resilient. We provide our own energy, power. We generate electricity or we use solar. So by using a generator, healthcare, you do it for yourself. So you like from a young age, you see your parents providing all these things that are social infrastructure that you've had to do for you, that your parents have had to. Then you get into the system to your, it's almost like a you're providing this, so you build your resilient. And we're one of the happiest people in the world. We crack jokes, no, and I think we say it like, oh yeah, we get into this, but where the government is have done something one week, everyone said the next week we are cracking jokes again on social media, making jokes around it and all. So it's the resilient spirit of Nigerians, and trust me, I haven't had one of any of my clients say I regretted hiring this person out of with Imo. It's been it's been good because again, I'm not saying they're not bad, they're bad talent everywhere, but we do everything we can and we replace. So we have a replacement. So throughout your contract, if you're not happy, we'll replace immediately because, and this stems from my own HR background. I know how people are in their probational period and you're stuck with this person who's just terrible. So it's not good for your mental well-being. It's not good for that person, the person who should be leaving you. It's not good for
If
both
it's
parties
not a fit, it's not a
because it's
fit,
not
right?
fit. And then because you can't, that person is still under their probational period, you are, you remember earlier we said something about being passive aggressive. So you as a line manager, you're passive aggressive to this person because they just, going to the office, you're already upset just because so yeah, work you're stuck because of a probational period, right? With this person. And we have a 3-month initial contract where yes, you want to try. So we want you to try before you commit to longer term. But within that 3 months, we don't want you to be I don't want you to come pay,
Yeah.
you've paid for something for 3 months and you're stuck with the wrong person. So we
Yeah.
replace and so for
But
me,
that's the same model that any recruitment agency that I've ever been familiar with would have, wouldn't it? Like there's a period of time that
yeah,
actually if things aren't working out, like they have like a rebate structure, don't
yeah,
they? Most even when
yeah,
you hire someone permanently,
yeah.
there's still if it doesn't work out, we're going to give some
And
of our
within that
feedback,
period,
right?
yeah.
So it's we all know and we are all realistic that sometimes people just aren't a right match for an organization or an organization isn't a good match for a person. Like we know that.
Right. Yeah. So broadening your horizon, contribute to growing to uh, um job creation. That's why it's job creation in and knowledge sharing because whoever is coming to work for you is going to get a lot of knowledge working for you, and you're also going to get a lot of knowledge from, especially when they're young. This young people are so creative, they're so innovative. So it's if you're hiring a Gen Z, it's like it's almost the same as hiring a Gen Z from London. They are so on point. They, as I said, as you said earlier, with TikTok, with everything, the world is good, but they know everything. They are and they're keen to work, they're keen to learn. And the difference between the Gen Zs in the West and in Africa is that there's no support, right? There's no social care, there's nothing. So they have to work to deliver. So they are extra hungry, they're ambitious, they're able to contribute. Because if they don't work, they can't get the
Yeah.
life they want. They can't pay for
You
their
can't buy a phone to get
yeah.
TikTok on.
They can't pay for their music, they can't pay for
Yeah.
their YouTube, they can't do nothing. So they
Yeah.
have to work to make sure. So they're eager to contribute. They will do their very best to make sure that your your company is growing. They're able to contribute as much as they can to the growth of any organization.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. And yeah, and I think from my perspective, I really want to urge people to sit with their thoughts and feelings around when you think about bringing talent into your organization in whichever form, whether it's in person, remotely, whatever, um, where where do they notice discomfort when it comes to like the locations they're hiring people from? And if any of these kind of conversations we Erefa and I have just had resonate, like, and again, you don't have to acknowledge it if you don't want to, that's cool, but sit with it and just think like, yeah, I might have some bias in that area. um Good, like think about that, be open to it, and then explore that and think about what might you do differently in the future when different opportunities arise to course correct that bias. Take the opportunity to do something differently about it. Yeah. Erefa, I know that I should say Erefa Coker because I want people to get your full name because I want people to know to come and get hold of you. So if people do want to reach out to you because they thought actually yeah this is really interesting, I'd love to talk to Erefa more, or we've got recruitment needs and we had not thought of this as an opportunity. They'd like to just I guess pick your brain and see what options might be available. How can they connect with you?
On LinkedIn.
On
So
LinkedIn.
yeah, Erefa Coker. It'll take you to can show you Erefa Fine Country because that's my maiden name. But Erefa Coker on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to get hold of me. Or you could go to our website and chat with support and that is www.imotalent.app.
www.imotalent.app, and I will make sure I put links to that in the show notes as well. So if anybody is kind of thinking, oh, I can't remember what you said, or I'm driving, I can't write that down, don't worry. When you get back to wherever your destination is, look in the show notes for this episode, and I'll make sure that the contact details for Erefa are in there so you can follow up. Erefa Coker, thank you so much for joining me today on the Speaking of Inclusion podcast.
Thank you for having me, Katie. I know since I've met you, I've been intrigued by you, so thank you. It's really good chatting with you.
Done. Great.
Right. I think
How was that for you?
I think it went well.
Yeah.
It wasn't obviously it's not planned, so we'll touch on different subjects and yeah, I think it went well.
Did you get to say everything that you wanted to?
Yeah,
Grand.
I
Yeah,
think
I
so.
thought so.
I didn't want to be too, I know you can beat them. I can beat them with a cane. You can. So
Yeah,
just have to
but
be
that's why I wanted
professional.
to say that because I was like, clearly, you're like, you're not going to come out and go. Some of my clients say the horrible, the weirdest, stupidest thing. Like, you're not going to slate your clients. I'd get that, but I feel like I want people to just hear this and just
And take a pause.
recognize it.
Especially when you said, "What's the difference between I am from Manchester?" And because again, that's a very valid question because they're working remotely. The person in Manchester is not going to say, "Oh, I love you so much. I'm going to come all the way from Manchester to come see you because you told me my job was fully remote, so
Yeah, same,
I don't
same.
have to come see you."
Yeah, and that for me was the thing. Like, just sit with it. And I didn't go. I didn't get to it, and I'm part of me because I didn't know how comfortable you would feel about it actually. So I probably should have sense checked it with you first. But and even in having this conversation now, even saying it, if it rings true, I might clip this bit and just stick it in anyway. Um, but for me, there was something in there as well around anti-black racism specifically about the
Yeah,
comfort that people have
yeah,
in like, oh yeah, we might hire from India because there is a level of familiarity there, but specific anti-black racism that
yeah.
would associate to hiring someone in
Yes,
Africa.
yes, 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 yes. I say that a million times. Yes, yes, yes. Even the Black British people, right? We've had this chat before, right? Where they double the code switch, right? In the workplace. That's not how they speak. But because my husband was born here, he's lived here all his life. But when he submits a CV, he writes David. He doesn't write his first name. His last name is Coker, so writes David Coker, gets him through the door with his, so there is definitely, I say it's almost like the black people at the bottom of the food chain. I
Yeah,
say they will pick an Asian over you anytime, any day. They'll pick a Middle East person over black. It doesn't, for them, it's just, again, they're comfortable with the these people. They're
yeah,
comfortable with, oh, it's closer to my skin color. I know,
yeah,
kind of, oh, I know,
yeah.
it's just, it is what it is. It is what,
Well, I mean, that's the epitome of racialization, isn't it? It's like the proximity to whiteness. The closer you are to whiteness, the more comfortable
I've
white
had
people.
people ask me, because I'm very fair skinned, for, are you mixed race or anything? No, I'm fully Nigerian. I'm not mixed race. But yeah,
But what a question! Like, what a question!
yeah, because they just can't believe that. Oh, people obviously they're not used to seeing a lot of black people that this light skin and oh yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just I'm Nigerian. There are a lot of light skinned people. If you go to Nigeria, so many, Shelly, from the parts where my dad's from, there's so many light skinned people there. And that's who we are, but I know it gets people smiling at me more than when I'm with my darker person, but it is what it is. I remember in 2006, my cousin took me to Bicester Village
Oh yeah, yeah,
and she was asking, we're lost. And she was asking, and the woman didn't answer, turned to me and started speaking to me, an older woman. And she felt like my cousin is Black English. This is the only home she doesn't speak Nigerian. She doesn't know anybody in Nigeria. So she just thought like, oh my God, like
yeah. That's a slap, right?
it's a slap in her face.
Yeah,
I was just visiting. I was like, okay.
yeah,
It's just it is there. It is there. I've seen but one of the things I tell my daughter, it's there, but you're not gonna make it about your life. It's not going to be about you. It's not going to,
yeah,
you're not gonna let it define you. You pretend
yeah,
like you don't see it, but if it's too much in your face, then you call it out. That's that. But I
yeah,
don't I don't go about saying, "Oh, you're being racist to me." Is it because I'm black? I don't care because I'm too confident in my skin color for you
yeah,
and but imagine people who are quiet, people who don't have that confidence, people who are have to second guess, even coming in front of you, they're second guessing themselves already, and
yeah.
you then do that to them. It's just their self-esteem
Yeah.
is just
And
completely.
but even that for me is significant because even the fact that you might have to ask that question of yourself, like, is it because I'm black? Like, just the uncertainty, like, I've never had to have that conversation. Like, I've never come out of a job interview and thought, I wonder if I won't get that job because I'm white. Like, it's
When we
not a
talk
thought
about
process.
privilege, people don't say, because oh, I was speaking to I'll give you two examples. I was asking questions. So I have a friend who runs Black Women in HR, and she had a speaker speak and was talking about privilege, and I said, so it was about how men have more privileges and stuff like that. So I asked him, he said, no, that he didn't have privileges. But, people fail to realize that being white is a privilege. Um, at Web Summit 2023, we're speaking of female funding for female founders. So there's a panel, there's only Black person there. So I said to them, first of all, being female in a male-dominated tech world, funding is almost like is a very you can't you're struggling.
Yeah.
So I said, I've got two strikes against me. I'm female, I'm Black. It's almost like I'm not gonna get call. I'm not gonna get if I message a billion VCs, except I'm in Lagos and the VC is particularly looking for people. I'm in the UK, I'm female, so they're billion, like not billion, but exaggerating. There are millions of women trying to get funding, they're not getting funding. Then I'm Black. I'm almost like it's almost
Yeah.
a struggle to get that funding. And
Yeah.
people don't understand that for being a woman is running a business as a woman is tough. Running a business as a Black woman is tougher. It's
Mhm.
just it is just what it is. But again, as I said, I don't let it stop me. I don't when I'm having a conversation, I don't maybe because I've been confident all my life. So I don't second guess myself. I don't ask if I'm speaking to you, I'm not gonna say, are you gonna answer me because I'm Black? I don't think about it. I'm on the plane chatting with people. Like you sit beside me. I just chat because that's who I am. I just chat. I walk
Yeah.
into a room, I'm I'm in my own feelings.
Yeah. But like you say, that's a confidence about yourself
That's
and how
me.
you carry yourself. Yeah.
There are
And
people who have to constantly second. I'm telling you, I know a lot of older, young. My husband is mid-40s, and he's carried this up from the start of his career. I mean,
yeah.
to be David uses Christian name David to get into jobs. Staying, just being, they get all sort of things on the job. I've been fortunate. I have always worked for myself, even in the UK, so I haven't had to deal with systemic racism and stuff like that. But I have people who have the stories that they've dealt with it, and stories and stories, but they just carry on.
Mm,
They're strong, they're resilient, they just
yeah.
carry
But it's
on.
extra burden, isn't it, right?
It's too much
To
burden.
rise above takes energy, right?
It's too much because they
Yeah.
could be using that energy for something else. It's
Yeah.
just too much,
Yeah.
to just and that's why when now they're genuine white people who want to be friends with you in the workplace. And my friends go like, I don't want to be friends because I don't know if you're being genuine. I don't know if you're being so I just keep the energy. Smile. They don't my cousin, they want to have a living do for my cousin. So I'm not doing living do. Things that come naturally to other people in the workplace. Black people have to second guess themselves. They have to think, should I go? Should I do it? Should I? Oh no, I just can't be bothered.
Mentally exhausting, right?
It's mentally exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you okay for me to include this portion of the conversation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'll do a little edit and sync because actually that this is a great conversation. So because you've consented, thank you. Um again, I just want to put a little pin in here to say for people that have listened to that, like think about everything that Erefa and I've just spoken about there. Um and if you're listening to this as someone who is racialized as white and this is new for you, have a little sit with that too while we're, have a think about that. Um and just yeah, I guess just listen. And if you're not, maybe rewind it, have a listen again, see what you think and where it might show up for you in the places where you don't, where you have that privilege, where you don't have to do the additional mental or emotional gymnastics to just navigate life. Yeah. Thank you.